So let's not beat around the bush here. What you just heard is the Supro Tremorverb that's sitting behind me. It's been my amp for the last 2-3 years now. If you saw my recent demo of it, you can check it out here. You know that I love that amp. It's been my sound forever. But recently I got the HX Stomp for a couple different reasons that I'll go over in a second. But what you're going to hear now is the exact same playing sample, exact same take even. I recorded it at the same time, but this time it's being fed through a model that I created on the HX Stomp to kind of emulate this Supro. So as far as digital modeling goes, this is my first real experience with owning a quality piece of gear. And I'm kind of inexperienced, but if you're inexperienced as well to modeling, this is kind of what you can expect. If you put a couple hours into it, this is the result you can get. I think that sounds pretty close to the real thing. What we're not going to do in this video is talk about all the extensive features in the HX Stomp, but instead I want to offer some insight into why I got it and how it might be useful for you in the future. Now, it's never quite going to replace the Supro. I've loved that amp forever, and it's kind of become the sound that I've developed my playing around. But as far as the HX Stomp goes, there are a lot of things that you can do with this that you won't be able to do with the Supro. So let's look at that. First off, you can integrate this into a pedal board rig. If you're flying to a gig, you don't know what the amp situation is going to be like, which will be my situation in a couple months. This can be a reliable way of coming up with the same sound night after night. If you saw my update video a couple weeks ago, you'll know that I accepted my 4th cruise ship job. And on this one, I heard from the current guitar player on board right now. He told me that there's no amp in the theater, so you actually need to own a digital amp modeling processing unit to work on this ship. You can't just plug directly into the board without anything. And as well, there's been ships that I've been on where I've played through great amps. My first ship, we had a Super Reverb, which is one of my favorite amps. It's kind of what the Supro sounds like, and it's actually what the model in the HX Stomp is based on. On my second ship, I dealt with a PV Bandit for the entire contract. It's a lower priced amp, which is a pretty bad excuse for backline, to be honest. On my most recent ship, my 3rd one, I played through a Fender Twin the entire contract, as well as a Roland Jazz Chorus. Both great amps, but neither really in my taste that much. So in the event that you can't bring your own amp with you, it's really nice to be able to have an amp on your pedal board that can hopefully get you the sound that you enjoy consistently every night. I'd like to think I did a pretty good job of getting the HX Stomp to sound like the Supro on a clean setting, but one thing I haven't managed yet to do is to get it to respond in the same way as the Supro does when I throw pedals in front of it. One thing I think does help a lot is splitting the amp and the speaker emulation in the HX Edit and throwing an effects loop in the middle there, and that's where you're going to throw your drive pedals. It helps a lot, but it's still not quite the same. Again, it's something that I hopefully can fix and get around with when I spend a little bit more time with it, but I'll show you what that's sounding like right now after only a couple hours of experimenting. One really nice thing about having your amp on your pedal board is the effects loop, as I mentioned before, and also being able to run effects before and after the amp emulation. So for example, I like to run my compressor in front of the amp block right now, then out through the effects loop where it goes through my drive pedals and some modulation, back into the pedal, and then through the speaker emulation in the HX Stomp, out of the HX Stomp, and into my reverbs and delays, and this really helps those two effects sound a lot bigger. So in this next setting, I'm going to show you two things. First, what a really thick reverb sounds like going into a real amp like this, mic'd up, where you have the natural compression of the amp and the mid shaping. And then the other option is with the amp going into the reverb and then directly into the front of house, where you don't have the amp affecting the reverb sound at all. So the original reason I got this pedal was so I could do amp emulation and go front into house with a stereo setup very easily and not have to move with an amp all the time. But another thing it does, obviously, is the great effects that Line 6 is known for, and that's great because on a small board like I have when I'm traveling, I can access tremolo sounds, which I normally wouldn't bring with me. I can access phaser sounds, chorus sounds. In addition to the effects and the amp emulation that I got this pedal for, another really nice feature that I'm excited to use is the ability to connect this to my computer and use it as an interface. So when I'm on the ship, I can keep creating music and I can keep staying inspired, and it's very easy to set up and practice all the time, as well as with a headphone output, so I have no excuse not to practice on a ship. It can be hard finding a quiet place to practice, but if you have the ability to plug directly into your board and use headphones, that just makes it much easier, and it'll make me much more likely to want to leave my room and practice. So guys, if you enjoyed that video, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button down below. Stay tuned for more Helix videos where I'm taking you through different sounds that I'm creating for different guitars. If you own the HX Stomp and you enjoyed the presets that I used in this video, I'll leave pictures on the screen right now of all the settings. Feel free to steal them and use them as you like. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments and I'll address them. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.